it's funny because in it, like previous major international tournaments, so much of the criticism was like, okay, the defensive line is not good enough in transition to, and it's too top heavy, so their attack is amazing, but their defense is a little bit older. It's not as star studded. But in this tournament, it was their offense that let them down primarily. I mean, they just couldn't buy a goal. And it comes down to the decline of two players in particular. One is Eden Hazard, who in the 2018 World Cup was among the best players in the world, and Romelu Lukaku, who was at his peak, around that time, And obviously both of those players have dramatically declined since then, and not playing a prominent role. In Hazard, as you mentioned, for the first time, Roberto Martinez was like, you know what, I might drop my Eden Hazard agenda that I've been pushing for so long. He believed until the end, and I think the belief came crashing down.
Hazard's career is over, I think, after this. There's no way he comes back. I'm talking about not of him retiring, but there's no way he comes back to a respectable level of football after what happened in this tournament. I don't think if Roberto Martinez didn't trust him, I see no other quality project in European football trusting him. So his career in elite football, I think it's over.
I'm glad, I'm not glad that this is what happened to Hazard. I feel bad about the situation. He was a great player. It's a signing that went terribly wrong. It's sad when you see such a great player decline like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can talk about why he declined. Doesn't matter. He's not the same player. He's done. In a lot of ways, I'm glad that everybody collectively got to see Hazard up close in the World Cup to see what's left of him. Because now there's no room for. We know what he is. He is, because Belgium was about as tailor-made as you can make for him. They opened up a role. They gave Yannick Carrasco most of the defensive duties and the creative force on the left wing. He got to come in a little bit centrally and pull some strings and play in a more ideal role, not too many defensive duties. And he's a player now that he basically has to be wide open and distribute the ball. He can't beat players off the dribble. He can't do any defensive work. He can be a link-up player, and that link-up player is not the kind of like Benzema type of link-up. It's where that can be done in tight spaces with defenders suffocating him. He can't take a battering. He's physically just doesn't have that explosiveness. He basically has to be wide open, get the ball, and pass it out. And if you can, but that's just not at the Real Madrid level that is demanded now. It's done. And we saw that up close. There's no role for him. I mean, I guess I will just say something really quickly about Croatia. I thought they've gotten a little bit better with each passing game. I mean, the sample size is small, but that first game against Morocco was really disappointing. Against Canada was better. And I don't know if it was better against Belgium because they could have been eliminated easily in the second half based on how this went down. I do think Luka Modric has had a good World Cup quietly. I'm writing about this too. But I mentioned this on Twitter. I have to check it out again after this game, but he's had the most progressive passes of anyone in the World Cup after 2 games. He's quietly just kind of done his job. He thought he was good again against Belgium today. Also turns out that maybe the reason Canada looked so good in that first game was because Belgium were terrible. I didn't watch Canada in the last game here, but against Croatia, they pretty much got picked apart. So you want to get some questions?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Patron questions submitted through Discord. So I think it's been a success. We got a bunch of questions in the Patreon Discord. If you have trouble connecting your Patreon to the Discord, send us a message. We'll help you out. If you don't know what Discord is, it's super easy. If you've used Slack, it's kind of like Slack, and you can just do it on a browser. You don't have to download any apps or anything. And it's basically a big chat box. You can talk to other Madridistas. You can talk to other patrons. You can discuss World Cup games. There's different threads. There's different rooms. There's all kinds of things to talk about and connect with other Madridistas. If you absolutely just hate Discord and you do not want any part of it, we will not discriminate against you. Don't worry about that either. You can still submit questions through Patreon. Send us a direct message and we'll put it on the mailbag. Don't worry. But we're basically just trying to give you an option here to also go over to Discord, try it out, and connect with other Madridistas. So we're trying to expand the community and make it more fun for everyone, because Patreon is cool, but it also has its limitations on, like, there's no chat in Patreon. Discord is connecting seamlessly. So yeah, questions that came in through Patreon and Discord. So first one is from Afa. He says, hi guys, given the players we already have for our future midfield, don't you think someone like Musiala would be a better complement than Bellingham? Bellingham just seems too similar to the players that we already have.
It's clear that Real Madrid could use a player like Musiala on the right wing. He was very impressive against Spain the other day. But I disagree with the sentiment here that Bellingham is similar to the players Real Madrid have. Well, he might be similar to Modric in his playing style, but we know that Real Madrid can't count on Modric keeping these kind of performances up for a long time, and that's why Bellingham, I think, will be a perfect fit. Nor that I think that Real Madrid will sign Bellingham next summer. By the way, I think that the competition will be extremely tough for Real Madrid, especially coming from the Premier League teams. But obviously, I think they will be extremely high for Bellingham, considering the way he's performing lately. So I think that Real Madrid will ultimately say no to him. It's just my feeling here. Not that Musiala will be available either. I think that Bayern Munich are not blind, and they will gladly keep Musiala for many years, considering the way he's been performing lately. So we're talking about two players here that might be out of reach for Real Madrid. Madrid could use a player like Musiala on the right. Madrid could use a player like Bellingham for the future, but I don't think neither two will be available.
So, I mean, the idea that Bellingham is a little bit too similar to our players, I think actually, and you outline why that may not be true, but I actually think that he's similar in some ways to our current midfielders is more of a reason to sign him. And the reason I say that is because it means he fits stylistically, and it also means that you need like replacements for Modric and Kroos. He's not Kroos, and he's not Modric, but he covers ground defensively like Modric, and he creates at a really respectable level like Modric. So for that reason, I actually do think he fits. I think there's an Enzo question coming up, so we can bring this discussion back full circle. But I also just want to note on Musiala, yeah, incredibly talented, awesome player. I think he's still 19, so he's kind of a luxury signing to me, because his best position is either on the left or in the middle, and he doesn't have a huge track record on the right wing. You know what I mean? So I just don't know how it pans out. I'm not saying he can't play it, but he's certainly like his best role is kind of what Vinicius currently has.
Yeah.
Varun Sharangon says, Enzo as a Bellingham backup, hypothetically, how does that fit in with Tchouaméni, Camavinga, and Fede positionally and role-wise?
I don't think the rumors are very realistic. I don't think Enzo makes a lot of sense as a Bellingham, as a plan B for Bellingham if Real Madrid can't afford or can't compete for the signing of Bellingham. What I'm seeing from Enzo, I'm obviously not a Benfica expert, but what I'm seeing from Enzo, he seems to be a defensive midfielder like Tchouaméni. So his fit with Tchouaméni and Fede would be a little bit tricky. I think you will need someone a bit more creative than that for that kind of midfield trio to work. Someone like Bellingham. That's what makes Bellingham a perfect fit. I think that he would be the most creative of the three, and quite possibly the one who would break lines and play make for you in that kind of midfield trio. So I don't see these Enzo rumors very realistic, and to me they don't make much sense. And I'm not a big fan of the player, considering the price tag that seems to be being discussed, which is 100 million euros. I don't think he's that good, to be honest.
I think that's the part that people miss. So I like Enzo. I think he's a really good player. I like what I've seen from him. I wouldn't I wouldn't classify him as a defensive midfielder like Tchouaméni, although he can play that role. I would say he's a little bit more advanced. Can play as a box-to-box of sorts, can also get involved in the attack, obviously. But I think the part that people are missing about this is that he's not like this guy who's going to be way cheaper than Bellingham. You know, if Bellingham's going to be 150 million, let's say. Because Fabrizio Romano reported say that Enzo's release clause with Benfica is 120 million. River Plate also get 20% of his transfer. And so for that reason, I don't think Benfica is going to take a low amount because they're not going to get the full transfer value for him. And so I don't think he's going to be cheap at all. So let's say theoretically it's 120 million. If I had to choose between the two, I'd pay 30 million more and get Bellingham, who's a better player.
Yeah, absolutely. And younger too, I think, right?
Well, Bellingham is 19. How old is Enzo?
Let me check. 21. Yeah.
Question from Young Reach 23 says, hope everything is well with you guys. Lately, I've been feeling like Camavinga could be on his way out within the next 2-3 years if he doesn't get the playing time he wants. I know he's still young and will have lots of opportunities with older players phasing out, more games, tactics, etc. But surely we can't rule out the possibility of him moving on, especially if we get Bellingham and he takes up more time than Camavinga.
I don't think